Still trying to throw the ball. On first and goal, second and goal, panicking at third. Fourth, I'm wishing for a month.
We're here at Laney College, home of the champions, the best junior college in the nation. We got a special guest today for you guys on the 5-1 Huddle Pod. My guy, Coach Dicko. How you doing today, Coach?
Man, I'm good, man. Appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. Man, you guys doing some big things. Big fan.
Yeah, definitely a secondary coach and a special teams coordinator, correct, as well for the Laney College.
So I had to have Coach Dicko here. I think we met a few times before. Like I said, I've had a lot of boys come through Laney. So to get this interview and hear perspective from national championship winning coach. That's big. So.
Yeah, man. I think Dicko by far is probably one of the best coaches I had in my career from a teaching perspective. I think you touched me really on a teaching perspective and got me into this film a little more than usual. But let's try to get into it, man. So one of my first questions for you: how did you get into coaching, Coach?
Man, so it was one of those things. I kept hearing the theme while back in the day when I was a student athlete that coaching might be something that might work for me because I wasn't necessarily the most athletic student athlete that was out there. And so I had to find ways to get on the field and contribute. And so the playbooks always came easy for me. All right, it was something that I understood, offensive schemes, defensive schemes, things that I was able to, it made sense to me. And so I was able to use those, my knowledge of what was going on to put me in position to make plays.
What would you say to anyone else trying to get in coaching, the first step? What would you recommend?
Man, is to learn, right? The biggest thing is you're not going to be able to pick up everything. You're not going to be able to go day one, all of a sudden you're going to be on Belichick's level, all right? And so you're going to have a comfort zone. It could be offense, it could be defense, it could be special teams, it could be a certain position. You're going to have a comfort skill part that you're going to be very comfortable with. You want to get into it, dig into it, figure out how it really works, and then figure out how it fits into everything else, and then start branching out from there. Because you're not going to be able to pick it all up. Yeah, okay. You got to start somewhere.
What would you say to we've seen the wave in NFL with the Sean McVays, and these offseason we had a bunch of 30-year-old hires. What do you think separates them to be young and get an NFL head coaching job than from the past?
Well, the NFL is a copycat league. Right, and so Sean McVay, a very, very special individual. He grew up in the NFL. Not too many people understand that. So, like his
grandfather or pops was like the builder of the '70 Cowboys or the Steelers. Which team was it?
That might be. I'm not 100% sure on where, but I know he grew up as an NFL kid, an NFL coach. So, like Mike Shanahan's of the world, the Sean McVays of the world, they grew up knowing NFL. Okay. Right, and so their ability to see offenses is a little bit more advanced than those that didn't grow up in the NFL. Yeah. Right, and so for everyone wants that Sean McVay, but some of those other guys that got hired this past year didn't necessarily grow up in the NFL, and so it just happened to be that they hit it at the right time where the Sean McVays of the world are making it work. And now they're looking for those next innovators, so to speak, to try to come in and try to get some juice into the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those very unique situations, like, while most guys were playing, they were already in the coach mode at 20s, so that makes a lot of sense.
Coach, you touched on it a little bit, but I got another question for you, and I think I know one of the guys that you might be one of your answers, Coach Beam. Who are some of the coaches that help shape, your coaching? The way you coach, because like I said, I think you're one of the best teachers I've been around. So, who helped shape you and mold you into the type of coach you are to this day?
Mm-hmm. Well, Coach Beam, John Beam was definitely one of those. He was my high school coach. He was in a sense my second football coach. And so before I got to Coach Beam, I'd say one of those very influential coaches that helped me out was my baseball coach, Coach Murphy. I was an Oakland Babe Ruth kid, and so. He taught me how to play the game, right? And so not just the coach, not just throw stuff out there, taught me the strategy. And so I took that My ninth grade year was my first year really playing football up in Skyline High School, but at that point ninth graders weren't on campus yet, and so I'm going from junior high up to Skyline to go play JV, and that was kind of my first experience with football. So from Coach Murph to eventually getting up to Coach Beam, with then my defensive coordinator was up at Skyline. Coach Cook kind of really taught me how the different blitzes that he had. He put me in a lot of really good positions to go make plays. And so just Beam, not so much the X's and O's part because he was more on the offensive side. And so I still dealt, he was still the head coach type. Yeah. But spent more time with Coach Cook, really understanding angles, coverages, things of that nature. And then just Beam, how he motivates different individuals. Not everybody's the same.
Yeah, because there's different styles of coaching. That's
exactly.
what I think a lot of people understand. You got your motivators, you got your strategic guys, you got different ways of coaching.
Exactly.
Different ways to reach the kids.
And so he had a way of figuring out how to push the right buttons for me versus how to push the right buttons for Coach Gardner versus how to push the right buttons for other individuals to get them to be the best that they can be. All right. And so that was kind of early on in my playing days. Those were kind of some of my guys that really influenced me. And then when I got to college, my position coaches, the defensive coordinators I had up there, spent a lot of time with them. Then just watching the game, reading a lot of books.
I think I tell today's kids, Coach, this year was my first year coaching high school football, and I realized a lot of them don't watch football. And I'm like I had a kid in one of my practices with my receiver. I was coaching receivers and DBs. One of the receivers, I was like, hey, line up out there and run a go route for me. He didn't know what a go route was. Right. I'm being so honest. Streak, and he didn't know the kind of the terminology. I'm like, dude, like y'all don't ever play Madden. I told the kid do a stick and knot. I'm like, that's on Madden. Like y'all don't ever play Madden. Like y'all got the best thing you can do is watch it. If anything,
it's especially in today's instant gratification world, right? And so, not too many kids, young players are actually watching a full game. They'll go quickly to ESPN and watch SportsCenter and get all the highlights. They'll see Odell Beckham with the one-hand catch and things of that nature. But they're not going to sit through a whole game and figure out why that one-handed catch was so big.
Mm-hmm. Or what led to that.
Exactly.
Do you think that will lead to more simplified offenses? Like I know, like in college, like the spread, everyone's the spread. In junior college, at Sierra College, we ran spread. It's a very simple offense. I mean, it's basically a set of 12 plays ran, different ways. So do you think that is going to carry through college and NFL as a more simplified game because of that?
Well, there's at the end of the day, especially at the high school level and then college and then you get to the NFL level, it's not going to be so much what the coaches know because they're not on the field. And so you got to get the athletes on the field to go make the plays. And so depending on where you're at, high school, you have a limited amount of time with them. College, you have a limited amount of time with them. The NFL, you even have a limited amount of time with them. And so your job as a coach is to put that player in position to make plays. And so the version that you end up giving out to the player might be very simplified because you got to a point where you can teach it in this way. But it still could be part of their complex offense or defense. And so the ones that end up being very successful are the ones that can break it down to get that player that just got here to be able to get on the field and run that go route. What does that go route mean?
Yeah.
All right. And so that's how you get to that point.
Quick fact check real quick. When we was talking about the McVay, his grandpa is John McVay. He was a front office vice president, director of football operations for the 49ers in the 80s, and he presided over 5 Super Bowl winning seasons.
So now think of it this way. You're young Sean McVay. You grew up in an era where Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, other worlds are making their heyday, where they're revolutionizing the game at that point. To that point, right? And so all of a sudden, West Coast offense was the way to go because at that point, before they were doing it, everybody was just running out of the eye. It was Big Ten football, right? So they're like, we're going to use angles, we're going to use the whole field, and we're going to take advantage of the way people are playing defense now. And so now that's how you get that young coach that can see it all when you grow up in something like that.
That innovation. I look at, I like how you said, like, more unique. Where, even Kyle Shanahan with the Niners, he's very young. The history of the Bay Area, you looked at John Gruden, he was hired at 33. John Madden was hired, I think, around his 30s as well. I think it's just very unique situations. And you look at Sean McVay's, like you said, he grew up around the West Coast offense. So you already learn as a coach, like, to be innovative from the get-go. I kind of look at any world, like you look at like the Steve Jobs, the Jeff Bezos. They come from very unique situations. And so, I mean, we're going to see how these hires go in the NFL, but I don't think, you're hiring a 33-year-old elite man. That's very rare, that's going to succeed. So,
I got another question for you, Coach, as far as what's your view on stopping RPO? Because I watched Tony Dungy interview, and he had the best way of stopping it so far from what I heard. And he was basically just saying press up, play man, inside leverage on the slide, outside guys, because most of the time off of RPO action, it's quick throws, quick routes. They're not pushing the ball down the field. So he's like, press up, disrupt the timing of those slants, flat routes, whatever, and then have the linebacker's eyes in on the quarterback and playing the run game.
Yep, and so the explosion of RPO use, right? Some use it very well, some don't really understand how to use it, and they're just calling stuff, right? And so what ends up happening, and so defensively, you're always trying to get an extra guy in the box to stop the run if that's an issue with you, right? And so the RPOs play off of those defenders that you put in to run past conflicts. So if you're telling the defender, typically outside backer, inside backer, maybe even a safety, that, all right, you're going to be responsible for D-gap fill or C-gap fill, but then at the same time, you're going to be responsible for a underneath zone. Which one do I put all my eggs in the basket first? So if I'm a run fit player, then if I get run action and I got to fit in the C-gap, that's where I need to be, if that's what the offensive line is telling me. And so what the RPOs do is, especially if you're playing any kind of underneath zone, cover threes, or those kind of things, is that they're going to put those overhang guys into run pass conflicts and play off of what they give them. So the best way to take that away, like Coach Dungy was saying, is typically if your run fits and your coverages don't match and you're going to leave open holes like that, then they should be able to take those 5, 6, 7 yard gains every time. You want to tighten up the coverage on that. And so you make it of, all right, if you're going to go RPO, it's got to be over my head instead of in front of me.
I mean, thanks for the insight. I mean, I feel like that's just a tricky, going into next year. And like you said, NFL's a copycat league. We've seen it with the Wildcat, everything. So I think that sums up the interview. I mean, I appreciate you coming through, the unique insight.
Appreciate the time.
No, definitely.
Still went for it. It's time to change the club. Know what the fucking necessity is. Get on your shit, please. Go sleep that long?